Okay, son, let us discuss about changes that you might have noticed in bank services.
Definitely. I remember when I was kid, my father has taken a loan for his business expansion, which took him around 2 years for approval. Loads of struggles. During that tenure, he has seen flat and skeptic faces of loan officers and was given to him at 20% interest rate with very less disclosure of papers. On the other hand, we have taken loan of around 10 lakhs for my brother's MBA. This time, our application was processed in 30 days. Staff was very cooperative. Even the interest rate is close to 8 to 9%.
Okay, this is regarding credit services of banks. Any other change you have noticed?
Yes, when I was young, there was only one financial agent who used to sell us insurance, and I have never heard of mutual funds at that time. But nowadays, we receive so many calls from world-class banks regarding investment advices, where they offer plethora of investment services ranging from mutual fund to insurance to gold and real estate, and that too at a very competitive rates.
So, what has resulted in these transformations? Hope by now you can guess my answer. But let me reiterate for you. Reforms in the financial system are critical for the success of structural reforms in other areas like industry, investment, privatization, disinvestment, etc. Because the latter aim at reallocating real resources in the economy, and this process needs to be supported, lubricated by an efficient financial system. The efficiency of the financial system is especially important in the context of the increasing integration of domestic and financial markets. Weaknesses in the financial systems in an open economy can cause the currency crisis. India's reform program therefore included a concerted effort to reform banking and capital market institutions. There has been steady forward movement in these areas. Banking sector reforms. Banking sector reforms were first initiated in 1992 based on the recommendations of the Committee on the Financial System, Narasimham Committee. And the first stage focused on interest rate liberalization, improvement in prudential norms and standards, strengthening supervision, and increasing competition in the banking sector. Till 1990s, both the interest rate on government debt as well as the deposit and lending rates of the commercial banks were strictly controlled, that is, was artificially fixed at a low level, and were supported by mandatory requirements for banks and insurance companies to invest high proportions of their assets in government securities. The Reserve Bank of India, RBI, used to prescribe the structure of deposit rates for term deposits of different maturities and also the structure of lending rates with different rates for different categories of borrowers. There has been a major liberalization in this area. Interest rates have been almost completely decontrolled since 1991. Mandatory requirements for investment by banks in low-interest government securities have been sharply lowered. Interest rates on government securities are now determined by the market on the basis of periodic auctions conducted by the RBI. Deposit rates have been completely deregulated. Lending rates have also been largely deregulated, except lending to some priority sectors. The degree of competition in the banking system has been increased significantly as new private sector banks have been given licenses and foreign banks have been allowed to expand much more liberally than in the past. Greater competition among public sector banks is beginning to make an impact on their behavior. These reforms are already changing the way banks function. Higher prudential standards are forcing the banks actively to seek quality borrowers in order to improve their asset quality. Interest rate liberalization gives the banks flexibility to offer borrowers more attractive interest rates. Quality borrowers, on their part, are also able to demand better terms because of competition among banks, and because the opening up of both domestic and foreign capital markets enables them to look for cheaper sources of funds outside the domestic banking system. All of this adds to competitive pressure favoring better. In short, better regulation and competition is working to the advantage of better quality borrowers, which should improve the allocative efficiency of the system too. You must have seen every day I am buying and selling some shares on internet.
Yeah, I have seen, but I wonder. I see around and I find every second person nowadays is doing the same. People have savings with them and they invest in some shares.
Also, you might have noticed that many companies nowadays are mobilizing funds from the equity and debt market.
Yeah, I keep reading news of IPOs of big companies.
So, reforms in our capital market are moving towards creating efficient financial intermediation. On one side, savers like us can buy and sell shares in capital market just by few mouse clicks, and on the other side, borrowers like private firms and PSUs can raise huge funds without much hassles from the capital market, which they would possibly utilize in more productive usage of the same. More efficient our financial markets are, more efficient financial intermediation in our country will be between savers and borrowers, which would finally result in optimal allocation of funds in efficient utilization of resources. Let us quickly see few capital market reforms that has been undertaken in past. Parallel with reforms in banking, major changes have taken place in the capital market. In 1991, India's capital market did not have a statutory regulatory framework. The Securities and Exchange Board of India, SEBI, was given statutory powers in 1992 and has since laid down a structure of regulations governing various participants in the capital markets, including rules for insider trading, takeovers, management of mutual funds, etc. These rules are now in operation and will need to be refined on the basis of experience. The stock exchanges, which were earlier dominated by brokers and lacked effective supervision, are now much better governed. The focus of the new regulations is to ensure investor protection through transparency and full disclosure. The technology of trading has been modernized. A market design based on new technology could keep the market more liquid and minimize opportunities for fraud to safeguard the self-interest of millions of small retail investors. The National Stock Exchange introduced online electronic trading in 1994, and the system today allows brokers located in 140 cities and towns all over the country to trade in a single unified market through terminals linked by VSAT to the NSE computers. It provides automatic matching of buy and sell orders with price time priority, ensures transparency for investors and assurance of the best price. Competitive pressure has led the Bombay Stock Exchange also to introduce an online trading system in 1995 with linkages to brokers all over the country. These changes are slowly putting in place a set of capital market institutions which can generate confidence among investors and encourage financial intermediation in this area. As with all institutional development, much depends upon how the system actually functions under the new rules and regulations. But a good start has been made. The presence of FIIs, which have invested billions of dollars in the stock markets, is an important force which will push capital market to come closer to international standards.